It's a bird. It's a psychic. It's a remote viewer. You're listening to Our Different Take. Welcome everyone to Our Different Take. My name is Brian, proud father of two awesome boys, an epic Star Wars fan, and to my left is Matt. Oh, welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Brian. Glad to be here. Looking forward to a great podcast today. One of my favorite subjects that until recently I didn't know very much about. So it should be a good one.
Very nice. And to Matt's left, welcome, Scott.
Good evening, good evening. Hey, love the opportunity to be here. I'm Scott, proud father of three wonderful kids. I'm happily married, and I love stuff like conspiracy theories and the paranormal. That stuff just kind of gets me off. I love talking about it, love learning about it, and it's going to be a good podcast.
Very nice. Well, welcome. This will be podcast number 2 for you, joining our crew here. So
Thanks for having me.
very nice. This is also our first podcast we are putting on YouTube. So welcome to all the YouTube viewers out there.
Welcome.
I'm glad you are here with us and hope you enjoy it. So going into this, I thought remote viewing was pretty much the same thing as astral projection.
What is that?
What is remote viewing? Well,
No,
I'm
what
glad
is
you
astral
asked.
projection?
I didn't study that. I did remote viewing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Telling us it's the same thing. I thought maybe you might know what that is.
Well, I do, matter of fact. So let's define astral projection, because it's not the same as remote viewing.
All
Right? What did you guys think? It was all tied together?
I did. I thought it was initially.
I did
I
too.
really did too. Yeah. Well, astral projection is a term to describe an intentional out-of-body experience that it assumes the existence of a soul or a consciousness called an astral body. And it separates from the physical body, and you can travel outside your body through the universe. That's astral projection. Remote viewing is a learned behavior that you practice, that it seeks impressions about a distant or a target that you cannot see, but you use your perceptions or sensing of your mind to find these unseen targets. So again, remote viewing experiments have been criticized for lack of proper controls and repeatability, because a lot of times you can't repeat it.
Right.
And a lot of times people are trying to find something that, there's no control and you can't really test it. So those are the two differences between astral projection and remote viewing. And we'll just discuss remote viewing on this podcast here. Scott, you had something in there about telepathy.
Yeah. I guess so many of these things, they seem so intertwined, interconnected, and it kind of get easily confused. And I guess y'all were saying that you thought that astral projection and remote viewing were the same. Telepathy kind of seems like it goes right in there as well. Like I kind of thought that was part of remote viewing as well. Like, you think something, and so I can reach out there and know what you're thinking. What did you read about that? Is that part of it as well, or is that a different thing?
I still think it's kind of a different than remote viewing. I think of telepathy as you're kind of born with that perception or that ability. And remote viewing, you have to work at it to get better at it, because you're using the skills you've already got with your mind.
Mm-hmm. I think telepathy can be broad. So, and I shared in a previous episode how I shared a dream with the girl I was dating. We actually had the same dream, and literally both of us explained the dream to each other in vivid detail as though we were both having it at the same time. And I think that's a form of telepathy, but it's nothing that I've ever practiced or ever meditated on or tried to have happen. I wasn't on any drugs at the time, and I hadn't been drinking. So I think telepathy, maybe you're right. Maybe you're born with it. Maybe you stumble into it at times, like I think I did.
Yeah, so you guys had an energetic connection already because you were dating and you kind of had that bond in the mind.
We literally fell asleep on a couch and woke up 2 hours later.
Oh, so you were together when you had the dream?
Together.
Okay.
I actually had my arms around her on a couch, and I woke up and looked at her and I said, "What piano store were we in?" She says, "I don't know, but I think the gentleman we were talking to looks really familiar." And I said, "Yeah, I agree." And we started talking, and then it dawned on us that we'd actually had the same dream at the same time. We were both in it.
How weird is that?
It was really weird. Actually, it's never happened since.
I wonder what that falls into. Is that you weren't reading her mind, really, or it's like you were mind melding.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
So
I've heard of it before, and I've seen it on the web. People have talked about it. Afterwards, I actually researched it for one of our podcasts, but I hadn't really shared that with very many people, and I hadn't really thought about it in years until it just came up. But there is some stuff on the web dedicated to that, and how people try and practice it. But I'm telling you guys, this was so real and so vivid, and it was all in black and white. There was no color in that dream.
in hers too?
In hers too.
How about that?
It looked, the way she described it was the way I described it. Very shadowy, very dark, and we were in a giant piano store that I'm not sure she'd ever been to. I'd been there before. I'm not sure she'd ever been there, but the descriptions and the way the dream went, and there was somebody in one of the back sound rooms playing the piano while we were talking to the sales guy, and he was showing us through this. It was all identical. It's very trippy.
I wonder how often that happens with people that we don't even know. Like they could be in a different state or a different country and happen to be in the same dream, but we would never know.
Yeah.
Because we'll never be in contact with that person ever. Do you think that happens more?
I don't know.
How do we know?
Interesting to think about.
I know.
One of the guys that I was watching in researching this topic tonight said that that's kind of one of those crossover points between telepathy and remote viewing, is that if you're remote viewing somebody who's not aware of you, that you could actually get into and affect their dreams.
Whoa, really?
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Especially in other cultures. I mean, if you can affect a man's dreams in another culture where dreams have a heavy weight, you could affect the direction of countries.
That is crazy. That makes me want to learn remote viewing.
Yeah, I want to try that.
Right. Well, some notes I had about it, it's that you don't have to be a psychic because remote viewing is learned. So you don't naturally have to be a psychic. Time and distance is not important. You can go to the future. You can go to the past. We'll have a story a little bit later where a guy went to 1 million BC. So it happens outside of time. So the past or the future can be seen. So it's pretty much wide open. You can do whatever you want as long as you practice and become a good remote viewer.
So just off the bat, y'all inclined to believe this? Do you think that this is legitimate, or do you think that it's just kind of a bunch of people saying that they did something that they didn't do? I mean, how can you verify somebody went 1 million years back in time?
The only part about that whole story that the guy could verify, right? And I don't want to give you too much away because we'll talk about that later. But there is a pyramid on Mars. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a pyramid on Mars, and he described that to a T. Again, the other stuff we'll talk about later, he describes there's no way you can verify it. But the only thing he did verify is the pyramid, and the person that told him where to look only gave him coordinates. That's the only thing he gave him.
Hmm.
So he did see and describe the pyramid exactly like what it was in real life.
So you're inclined to believe it's true.
I think I am, yeah. I do, because with the CIA and government programs, all that type of stuff going into it, I think there's some truth to the remote viewing.
Space-time is bendable, right? And time we think of as being static, and I think time is flexible and bendable. So there could be impressions from the past that you could tap into, I guess. I don't know how any of it works. I think it's really cool. I think it would be interesting to see the crucifixion or other huge events that shaped the world. And I think if you could do that, it would truly be amazing, and probably shatter or build your faith in whatever you believe in. But I'm not inclined to disbelieve it. If the CIA dumped money into it for years and the military has benefited from these programs, probably there's something to it. I don't know about time travel, but I'm sure there's something there that gives a tangible benefit.
Interesting.
What are your thoughts, Scott?
I'm pretty open-minded about all this kind of stuff. I tend to think that there's a whole lot out there that we just don't know, and we tend to dismiss because it's easy to dismiss. It's the whole sciencey thing where you got to have predictable experimental things that you can reproduce. How much of this stuff can you actually reproduce in the alternative, the paranormal realm? If you see a ghost, how can you reproduce seeing a ghost? I mean, you can't do it. That doesn't mean that you didn't see it.
Right.
That doesn't mean that the ghost didn't exist. But just because you can't experiment with it and reproduce it, or maybe we don't have the information to be able to photograph it or record it. Just because we don't have the technology, the wavelength to do that kind of stuff, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So I tend to think that all of this stuff could be real. I don't know what is and what isn't, but I tend to try to kind of keep an open mind about it.
I'm inclined to agree with you, and I think the technology gets better all the time, right? So we got EMP devices, or what do they call them? The electromagnetic detectors,
Right.
and infrared cameras, and we can see hot and cold changes and all those different things. I think there's a lot of evidence to say that there's something paranormal going on with ghost hunters, and I don't, just the fact that the government would dump millions of dollars into a program doesn't make it by any means worthwhile, because they've done that with a ton of stuff that wasn't worthwhile.
Right.
But you hear about these guys on national radio programs and in books talking about the things that they've done with a high degree of accuracy. It makes me think that there's probably something to it, and probably we should send Brian to get trained and let us know how it goes.
Well, here's my thought on that. Is we're going to go through like 12 different steps in order to become a remote viewer, right?
Okay.
So there's two different people that you always need to remote view. So there's three of us. So next podcast, whatever we do, I'd like someone to give this a shot, to try it.
Okay, let's make it easy then. Why don't we take something, an item with a distinctive shape? We'll put it on each one of our kitchen countertops, and the other guys have to let us know what it is.
Well, hold on, because there's a little bit more to that we have to do in order to do this right.
All right.
So,
Okay.
So
what are we doing?
We'll go through the steps, and then one of you guys can volunteer to remote view on our next podcast, which by the way, we are going to stream live. Right?
Yeah.
No pressure there. No pressure there. All right.
No pressure there at all. So, all right.
It'd be like Geraldo when he was going into the vault,
Yeah,
right?
man.
He'll be
There's
like,
nothing there.
watch it by remote view. Oh, he can't even find out what a peanut is. That's okay. That's all right. The biggest thing is the remote viewer receives signals in their unconscious mind, right? It's the not your conscious mind, but the subconscious. Did I say unconscious?
Yeah.
It's not your unconscious mind.
It might
It's
be
your,
if you're sleeping. I don't know.
it could be. That's your dream. That was your unconscious
Your
mind.
your deconscious mind. Yes.
It's the subconscious. Here we go. Okay.
Keep going. Come on.
So what happens is you rely on your senses: sight, sound, even taste, touch, smell. So you rely on all your senses, and you use your interpretive skills to analyze what you see. That's wrapping it up in a very quick way. Here's the biggest part, and we would see which one of us can do this the best, and probably that person is the one that can do the remote viewing. But they need to limit the mental noise, or what it's called is analytical overlay. Now that is when you're trying to go to sleep at night and all of a sudden your brain is singing and it won't calm down and you're thinking about everything. That is mental noise.
That's
So,
what Xanax is for, I think.
well, yeah, I don't think you're receiving anything on that. I don't think you're receiving anything on that.
Fair enough.
But whoever can limit the mental noise and no brain interference, no thoughts, no distractions, no mind chatter, because that stuff will prevent the correct information from being received.
So it's almost
The
like a
more mind-
meditation.
It is kind of like a meditation. So the more you can calm your brain and you can make a pact with your brain that it needs to be quiet, then you're going to be more successful, because then you're opened up to what's coming in and it's not mind chatter.
So my mom used to do this kind of stuff with me. She back in the 70s and 80s, she was really interested in like telekinesis and ESP, all of that good stuff. And so she would like sit me down, and it was just she and I at the time, because I think my sisters were already gone to college or something. So just she and I, and she would like sit me down, and she'd like, hey, your brain to my brain. I mean, it was like almost like a Spock mind meld moment, right?
Oh, really?
She's like, all right, I'm thinking to you. I'm thinking to you. And she'd put her forehead right up to me, and she's like, I'm thinking a word to you. And she's like, concentrate on my thoughts. And so we did that a couple of times, and I actually picked up on the word that she was saying a couple of times. It was
What?
I totally did. I mean, it was really interesting, and sometimes she would then try to block me from her thoughts. She would like, I'm putting up a brick wall now. You cannot see my thoughts, and all I'm putting. It was really weird. So it's kind of one of the things that made me kind of start to believe in this stuff. She also
Jedi
believed
training.
in, huh?
It's like Jedi training.
Right?
I think she was genuinely curious as to whether or not it was legitimate, and so she was going to take her young, impressionable son, who didn't have all of the stuff in the world that had told him that it wasn't possible yet, and she was going to ask, to see if it was, and so she would try this stuff out on me. She would even try the telekinesis, where she would try to move things, and I don't know if you ever heard of that thing where you try to bend like a fork or a spoon with just your mind.
Yeah.
Also, back in the 70s, supposedly they were doing it en masse. Like they have these big old parties where you could do that kind of stuff. And she never did manage to do that. But we did have the little telekinesis, not telekinesis, the telepathy communication a couple of times.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty.
That is cool.
Pretty interesting stuff.
I think you might have just volunteered
Yeah, man.
to do the remote viewing.
You're in, dude.
It's super interesting concept. One of the guys that I was watching in this actually has a program that teaches you how to do it. You can buy his little DVD thing for like $150. I'm thinking about maybe dropping the $150 and see if I can't learn it. I think it'd be interesting.
$150. I wonder if there's anything cheaper out there. I guess you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
We're giving people 12 steps here for free.
That's right. Tell your friends.
That's right. Unless they want to send us $50.
Or a telekinesis training kit of some kind.
Sponsor the program.
Or anything at all that we can open live on the air is just fine too.
Telepathy training kit. We're just supposed to know when it shows up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so mental noise. You can't have that. You got to calm your brain. So your subconscious already knows what the target is. And it needs to link you with that target. But you're not supposed to think about it. You're supposed to just let the process happen. And your subconscious does not need the help of your thoughts. Your thoughts equal your ego. So calm your mind. No thoughts. Don't try to help it. Let it come to you. Okay? That's the mental noise part.
Oh.
So steps to remote viewing. Now I have to give credit to to Michelle Beltran, the Intuitive Hour. I got a lot of these steps from her and her podcast, so I need to give her credit. But we're going to go through these. So you need 2 people to remote view. You need the remote viewer and you need a monitor. Okay. So the monitor can't be your friend that thinks remote viewing is all bull crap. It's got to be someone who believes that it's going to happen, and they're there to help you. So a monitor needs to be someone in your side. And they need to have in their brain that you're going to succeed. Okay? So the monitor gets 5 unique images, whatever those might be. You just pick 5 images. The remote viewer doesn't know what those images are. So the images need to be real world stuff, simplistic, but something that would engage the remote viewer. So Matt, if you're going to be the remote viewer, we would probably pick 5 items that are based around your personality. Okay. Because those engage you. We wouldn't pick anything that you wouldn't give a crap about.
Right.
The monitor then takes those images, puts them in an envelope, and then places a random number on each one, 1 through 5. Now that number that you put on the envelope is called a coordinate. Your subconscious will tune into that number to link to the target.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
5 envelopes, 1 through 5. That number on the envelope is called the coordinate. So the next step is called the cool down step. This is where you have to quiet your mind. Now this is probably the biggest key out of everything. This skill almost needs to be perfected in order to be really successful. Clear out whatever you're thinking about. Agree with your left brain to quiet down and get rid of the mind chatter, and then you're ready to go.
That's perfect.
So,
the left side is where I have all my head injuries, so it's kind of quiet anyway.
Jeez. Both of you guys are going to be good for this. You know that? You guys are going to be good for remote viewing. I think I'll just be the monitor, and you guys can do the rest. So once your mind is calm and quiet, you have to have a blank piece of paper in front of you and a black ink pen. Okay. And you sit in a quiet spot, kind of where we're sitting at right now would be fine. In the upper right corner, you write down your name, date, and time. And then you say out loud as you write down the coordinate that you selected. You say it out loud as you write it down on the paper. So I've selected number 5 as you're writing it down on the paper. Everything you write down, you're supposed to say out loud. And get used to saying it out loud as you write it down. Because that's supposed to embed your intention in the universe as you begin this whole session. Okay? Say it all out loud. Doesn't matter what it is. Just say it out loud. Then you start to, once you're calm, you let all the information start coming to you. It's kind of like brainstorming in a way. You remember doing that in school?
Mm-hmm.
You would just write down like everything that comes to your mind. That's kind of what this is. Let all the information come to you. Some people, they end up having a sense of smell, a sense of touch. It's like they're there almost when they're remote viewing. But you're going to get small bits here and there. You're supposed to write it all down and say it out loud. You want to try to notice what the weather's like. You want to try to notice what you see when you look up, when you look down, as specific as possible. But don't think about it. Just write it down and say it out loud. All these other bits are going to come in and it'll make sense in the end. But write it all down. And the target will end up presenting itself to you through all this. Does that make sense?
All right, so let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So Matt's the monitor, and he's got a telephone pole that he puts a picture of a telephone pole in a envelope, and
That's just what the ladies have told me. I'm not bragging or anything.
I'm talking about your pants here.
So he calls the telephone pole number 1. And so I now say number 1. And I announce that I'm connecting with number 1. And so I am now describing, I'm looking around and I say, oh, okay, I see weeds. Is that what you're saying? Is this what we're doing?
Yeah,
Did I
yeah,
catch
kind
that
of.
right?
You're writing down everything that comes to you. You're not thinking about it. Your mind is completely blank, and the telephone pole will present itself to you. That sounds kind of weird.
How is the telephone pole going to present itself to me? How do
because the universe knows what you're looking for, and will bring you whatever sensations you need in order to connect with your target.
So you'll kind of just zero in on that as you're sort of searching.
Right.
It should just.
You might.
Huh.
You might be thinking like something long and brown, and then you'll hopefully zoom in on a telephone pole.
This is a family program now.
Is it? Is it really?
I'm just saying.
Not for long, gentlemen. Not for long.
I'm just getting you prepared for what might happen because you're not supposed to think about it. It just might happen. Right?
Okay.
But you write it all down. There's no wrong answer.
And you're supposed to do this with all of them. You go through the five
items.
Pictures. And so what if you're nowhere close to, were you just wrong and you just...
Well, what happens is, let's finish going through this real quick, and then we'll get to it.
Okay, all right. I'm getting ahead.
Then we'll get to that part, so simmer down here. So you're also supposed to draw the impressions if they come to you. So write everything down, but if something comes to you, you want to draw it. If you want to try to use movement, and there's certain motion techniques too. So instead of just being on the ground, walking around like us, tell your subconscious, I want to look at what I'm supposed to be looking at 100 feet in the air. It'll give you a different perspective of what you're seeing. Maybe 200 feet in the air and a different perspective. So you can tell your subconscious that you want to zoom in on different parts and move around and not just be from a 6 foot tall perspective walking around.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So once you've done this, and they say a typical session is about 10 to 20 minutes probably. Some could be longer, some could be shorter. But you're supposed to say out loud, end, and then you write down end on your paper, letting the universe and your subconscious know that you're done with your session. You want to write down the time that you're done. And if you end up having a feeling that you are searching or you're waiting for something, that's the time to stop the session. That's when you know it's time to stop. Because things, the universe should be sending things to you to interpret. And once that stops, the session's over. Okay?
This sounds remarkably similar to the law of attraction. You ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I heard
What's that?
like Jim Carrey talking about that a while back, where basically uh, you get what you are asking for from the universe. So in other words, I think he said he wanted like $10 million or something like that. He was a starving artist before he was a big comedian, and so he actually he heard about the law of attraction, so he wrote down $10 million on a check, and he would carry that check around with him in his wallet. He wrote it to Jim Carrey, and he would carry this check around with him, and he carried it around, and he kept envisioning this $10 million coming to him. It was going to be coming to him, and about 2 years later, I think he got the Ace Ventura movie deal, and he got paid $10 million for it. And
Wow.
it was like he was putting out to the universe, this is what I want you to give to me, and his intentionality is supposedly what brought that to him. It sounds kind of like that's what we're talking about here. We're setting the intentionality out to the universe. I want you to show me what's in envelope one.
It's pretty interesting you say that, because I've always been told from my mother that words are powerful. Words are very powerful, and I'm actually kind of surprised that one of the steps is to verbally say, what you're looking for and things like that. I think somehow with the law of attraction or with remote viewing or anything like that, maybe your words are just kind of key. And it is true, man. I'm a big believer in what you get, what you give, and what you ask the universe for, you're going to get. Whatever you meditate on, whatever your mind is on all the time, whatever your thing is, man, that's going to be your thing. Like, it just comes back to you.
Isn't that a belief too of some of the faith healers, if I'm not mistaken? Some of those guys that they say, I'm gonna, like the word of faith movement,
Like the,
if I'm not
blab it
mistaken.
and grab it crew.
Yeah, they're kind of like, hey, I could be mistaken. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I could have cancer, and my word of faith, it will take that away from me and bring me riches.
Maybe
Am I
there's
going somewhere
something
with
to
that
it.
or no?
Yeah. No, I think that's a thing. I know that's a big thing with like faith healers like Kenneth Copeland and guys like
Right.
that. Maybe the principle's the same thing. Maybe there's something to it.
I definitely believe that, I've heard people that go around saying stuff like, I'm a klutz, I'm a klutz, I'm a klutz. And then, what do they do? Next thing they're tripping over a desk and they're banging their toe on a piece of furniture or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, you don't want to bring that into your life. You don't want to pronounce that over yourself, because I do believe words have spirit, words have power. And so if you don't want to be a klutz, don't say you're a klutz.
Agreed.
Don't do that. You want to say I'm graceful or whatever, even if you don't feel like you are. You say it often enough. Wasn't that old Saturday Night Live skit with Al Franken? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
It's the same concept, but yeah, I definitely think that intentionality has something, and so I know when people are saying like, oh, I'm probably sick again. I'm probably sick again. I usually are kind of like cringing inside, saying, stop that, don't, because if you're not, you certainly don't want to invite it.
Right.
I don't. That certainly doesn't sound very scientific, to say stuff like that. But
Words are powerful.
yeah,
I think it's so much easier for humans to do the negative self-talk too than be positive all the time. At least from the my interactions, it's you have to really work at trying to be positive all the time, and eventually it becomes into a habit. But negative self-talk is, I think, more prevalent in human society than positive is. Would you guys agree with that?
I used to be a total sarcastic SOB. I mean, everything I said was demeaning to people, and I was always, I'm joking. But in the process, you really end up hurting a lot of people with those words. Mm-hmm. And I at some point in time, somebody told me how much what I said had hurt them. And I was like, wait a minute, I was just joking. I didn't mean that. And then I started thinking about how often that I would say stuff like that. And I was like, man, I really do this a lot. I'm really negative, and I'm not even intending to be negative. And so, yeah, I really had to stop and listen to what I was going to say before I said it, so that I didn't end up being negative unintentionally. I really had to concentrate on trying to be positive to change that in myself. I think that I'm a lot better about it now, but I don't know.
Did you come to that realization on your own, or was it prompted by someone else that said a comment?
Well, it was because I was so sarcastic all the time, and I said it to somebody. I think it was a foreigner. I think it was, and so they didn't really get the sarcasm. You know, the American sarcasm. They didn't get it.
Nah.
And so they were kind of like, "What are you doing? This is a really mean thing." I'm like, I was just joking. I'm just joking. But they didn't understand it, and so I had to really watch it around them, and then I would say stuff to them about like my family, and they were like, "What? Why are you saying such mean things?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking." No, you should not say that about your family. And I got to thinking about it, I'm like, huh. You know, maybe that's true. Maybe my family is hearing this too. And so I started to try to be more cognizant of my intentionality coming out through my words, because my intentionality wasn't to demean and to tear down people. It was just to be lighthearted, but the words that were coming out were definitely doing that. And so yeah, I guess it wasn't somebody necessarily coming up to me and saying you're a real jerk, but it was somebody that didn't quite understand where I was coming from that just kind of made me think, maybe I need to be more careful with that.
Yeah, words are huge. I mean, each one of us deal with, a lot of different people, and, people report to us in jobs and all that. And you can tell automatically when you say something positive to someone, you can just tell in their voice, they pep right up, hard worker.
Right.
It's much different if, you're negative towards someone all the time. They don't want to be around you. They'll hate their job. They'll be there because they need to make a paycheck, but
Right.
They won't be productive. Huge. I know you deal with that, Matt.
Every day. Every day when I go in, I say out loud, it's going to be a great day, no matter what. No matter what I'm facing, I always say it's going to be a great day. And we make it through every day. And I have the ability to be very sarcastic and very vicious, actually. But with the people I work with, I try diligently to build them up. And it goes the other way too, because if you ever have to tear them down, if you've spent the time to build them up and built a relationship, usually when you have to talk about the tough stuff, it's impactful, and then you don't have to talk about it anymore. But positive words go a long way. It's true.
You ever tried just when you meet somebody at you're at a gas station and somebody's checking you out, and you just notice something about them that's attractive. You like their shirt, you like the way they look, you like the way they did their hair, you like the smile that they have on their face, and you just tell them that. You're just come out, and it's not like our society doesn't really do that, especially guys to other guys or guys to women, because
Right.
either way, if you're a guy, well, if you say this to another guy, they're going to think I'm gay. If you say it to another woman, you think I'm hitting on them, whatever. So we just tend to not do that. But have you ever done that, where you just like say to a total stranger, you go up and compliment them on something and see their reaction?
I can't remember ever doing that.
You try it. Next time that you feel that when you see something about somebody, just say. I went up to somebody in the gas station a while back, and this is about a week and a half ago, and it was this little gal. She was always so nice to me when she checks me out. She always says to, like, have a blessed day or something really nice, and so I saw that she had just these, those fake lashes that are out now. Everybody's selling them. What?
They're huge.
Yeah, and I'm not usually a big fan of that kind of that artificial look, but on her I just thought they looked really pretty.
I am.
And so I told her, I said, this is probably going to sound like a really stupid thing, but you have beautiful lashes. And she just got the biggest blush on her face, and she just said thank you, and just kind of, and it was the cutest thing. She's a 20-year-old or whatever, just a kid, but you could tell that comment, that unsolicited comment, just made her day. And she should probably go home and tell her parents or whoever that she lives with, hey, this person said this thing about, and it sticks with you, and it's just something that kind of builds you up. It's an amazing thing to do, rather than what I grew up doing, which is, what you see on all the sitcoms about, let's insult dad's an idiot, and so let's talk about how stupid dad is, or whatever.
Right.
It's a total different feeling to do that, and it makes you feel better as a person to build somebody up, rather than to do the thing where you're just sarcastically tearing them down.
It's true. I went into a 7-Eleven last week, and I walked up to the counter, and there's a lady behind the counter, a really nice lady, and I told her, you know what? Hey, your mustache is really not that visible. And she seemed really happy about that. So
you charmer, Brian.
Oh wow, that's great, man. You're really coming along here.
You're lucky with the ladies. No wonder.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah. Well, I thought I'd share my story too.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful.
We all have our way of doing things. Anyway, so we're done with our remote viewing session.
Okay.
We've said out loud end. We wrote all this information down. We wrote a summary of what we perceived. Now we grab the envelope and we look at the envelope and the image. We look over it in detail. We note all the things that were correct. We don't really look at anything that was incorrect. We just note everything that was correct that we observed. And then we repeat this work and go through the steps. So the next day, you can get the next envelope and go through that and practice the same thing again. So you repeat this work, go through the steps, and that's how you get better at this.
So we're going to do that this week.
Yeah, our next podcast, the one where we're gonna go live on YouTube. We're going to a remote view.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Amongst other things, so again, on our Facebook group, ODT Nation, we'll put something else out there too. If there's anything you want to talk about the next podcast, because we're going to do the remote viewing, and we're going to stream live, and we're going to do live call-ins as well.
So Scott's going to try the viewing, and I'm going to fill the envelope. Is that?
Yeah, and I'll narrate.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
All right, you guys down for that?
Down.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. You guys will have to get together and see what Scott likes and all that type of stuff, so you can pick things for his 5 envelopes.
Okay.
Okay. Good. So next podcast, live stream and live call in. So we'll need to know what you guys want to talk about on top of that, but we'll take your questions live on the show, and we'll give that out during this week or whatever.
You should put it on the paper and hold it up and make it magically appear.
I'll put it on. I don't even know what the link is though. So we were talking earlier. Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up about that part before we go into like actual remote viewing instances that we've researched?
No.
Good.
All right. We're going to put these links on our webpage at ourdifferenttake.com, and we'll put these links right under the episode. But we found an actual CIA document from December 2016. So when you click on this, the document is 71 pages long. Okay. And it tells the story of this guy who remote viewed back to the Martians on the planet Mars in 1 million year BC. Okay. This happened on May 22nd, 1984. So the monitor, which is going to be you, Mr. Matt, told the remote viewer to focus on certain coordinates or certain degrees on Mars. That's it. Okay. Now, again, I'm taking 71 pages and I'm bringing it down into like 3 paragraphs. So you can go and read for yourself, but it goes into a lot more detail than what we're going to talk about here. So the monitor told the remote viewer to focus on certain degrees, and it happened to be the okra pyramids of Mars. I've never heard of that before, but apparently they grow okra there. That's different
the
than
breaded kind.
Yeah, I think it is the breaded kind.
That's the best.
And it's close to the corn on the cob pyramids, which are close to that. These are okra. So the okra pyramids, he explained those with like dead on accuracy. He knew exactly how to describe them and everything. I don't know if this guy was a fan of pyramids before.
He probably is now.
He is now. He is now. So it goes on, and he describes a lot of this stuff in detail. And they originally sent him there to look at the rocks and what's around there and what happened way back then. And it so happened that he stumbled upon a native Martian there. That wasn't their goal to go there and talk to Martians. Their goal was to look at the rocks and everything around the pyramid. But he stumbled upon this Martian that was there, and he had some strange clothes on. The Martian wanted the viewer to follow him to these smaller pyramids, and what he found out, these pyramids were like a status chamber or some kind of chamber they were using to protect themselves against the violent Martian storms. So kind of like a protective pyramid or whatever you want to call it. So after spending some time with them and talking to the Martians, and again, while this is going on, the monitor is asking the remote viewer questions. Like, hey, can you see what this Martian's wearing? Can you describe this? Can you tell him that? So he's giving him a little bit of direction so he can absorb that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we'll be to that point next week or not yet with you guys.
Talking to Martians?
Yeah.
You know, maybe.
Anything's
maybe
possible.
we can talk to someone. That would be kind of interesting.
All right. So can I believe that this stuff happens and still call bullshit on this? What you're saying?
Yeah. Can you?
Yeah, you can do that.
Because
yeah, it's allowed.
I thought that you weren't supposed to be able to interact with people. I thought this was a whole observing thing.
Maybe they're interacting holistically. Maybe they're not even there, but it's just like something from a long time ago.
This guy's probably like a Jedi remote viewer. Like his skill level is pretty high. So maybe at that level you can talk to people.
Maybe he has all his merit badges.
It's probably it. It's my bad. I didn't realize that he. Yeah, I didn't consider the merit badges. You're right. Go ahead.
So you're like a Weeblo. Scott.
Padawan.
Yeah. You're not into Cub Scouts or anything yet.
Yeah.
And this guy here is like the Cub.
I'm actually going through this right now while we're talking, and I'm looking at these very detailed notes.
It's a pretty good read.
Pretty impressive. I got to be honest. I wish I would have read it earlier. I'll tear through it tonight, though.
Check it out. Well, the Martians said they were on the verge of extinction, and they're looking for a way to survive, but they can't figure out how to survive. They sent scouts out. Now, there's probably more detail in there. I don't know where they sent the scouts, or if it was off the planet or somewhere on the planet. I don't know. But at this point, they never found the scouts, or no information came back from the scouts. So at that point, the remote viewing session ended. And after this, about a year and a half later or so, maybe 2 years later, then the government unfunded this project, and it wasn't able to continue. So that's where it ended, kind of.
Was this remote viewing? This is the culmination of, I'm assuming, months and years of remote viewing? This wasn't one session.
Yeah, I don't have the information on that,
Okay.
but I would assume this would be like the pinnacle of.
And we're going to put a link to this.
Yeah, we're going to put a link to that.
Cool.
71
I'd like to see
pager.
what people think about it, because from what I'm seeing, man, there's a ton of stuff in here.
Oh, there's so much stuff, and like I said, we just burned through this really quick.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, check it out, read it, let us know what you think.
Okay.
And there was, I put two links in there. There's one from the CIA, and then there's another one from another archive that talks about life on Mars as well. So check those out, because I think it's kind of awakens like a little kid in you almost, where you can, if you can go back and observe like when the dinosaurs were around, or like any type of event, man, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it totally would be.
Yeah.
But why aren't more people doing it if that's the case? Or why aren't more people asking for $10 million like Jim Carrey and happening to them?
I ask for that all the time.
And you haven't got it yet?
No, I haven't got it yet. We're getting there.
Gotta believe it.
Maybe
You
you
probably
haven't
don't believe.
Oh, I believe it. Eventually. It will happen.
All right then. Took him 2 years.
2 years?
You know, I'm no
Yeah.
prodigy, so it might take
That's
me
good.
longer.
Maybe
So
we
I would-
start. Oh, maybe we start. Hey, I know I'm going to get $5 this week, and then you work yourself up.
From there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. It's going to be a great day.
All right. Scott, you were about to say something?
No, I was just thinking that if you talk to people who have been like missionaries that have go over to some of the more remote places, some of the places maybe down in the Amazon or over in Africa, that's not not the big cities and such, where there's still a lot of I don't know, let's call it superstition, whether or not it's real. Let's call it superstition. Where they believe that they're more heightened to the spiritual, to the paranormal, those things. I got a friend here I was recently talking to who was from Eastern Europe, and her mom would always tell her, "Yeah, you're very spiritual girl. You have these great gifts." Anyway, she came over here to America, and I asked her. I said, "So since you've been here, do you notice that still?" And she said, "No, not very much anymore." And I said, "Well, what happened?" And she said, "There's just too much stuff going on over here. So the things that I used to hone in on, that I used to be able to see clearly, are very dim now, just because of where we are in the culture that we're in." And I wonder about that with stuff like this. Our culture does not encourage this. It's almost like kind of the use it or lose it thing. You whatever that you focus in on is what you kind of build up in your life. And so if we're focused in on the tangible, the scientific process, the things that you can see, that you can reproduce, those things that you can, these are the things that you should believe and nothing else, then we're not really going to focus in on the other. So certainly we're not taught to do the spiritual things. We're not taught to learn them. We're not taught to quiet our minds and focus in on these things. We're taught to dig into textbooks and to do things that we can see, touch, feel, smell. And I wonder if some of this stuff might actually work better with kids or with people in different cultures, simply because they're not averse to it, because they haven't discounted it like we have.
That's true. I would agree with that. It's a lot of the stuff you could consider a skill, and the older you get, the harder it is to train. Mm-hmm. I took a lot of notes when I was on the plane this week, and I thought, I'm going to try this. I am going to see if I can quiet my mind on the airplane, right? It should be, there's not a lot of noise. I had my headphones on. It should be an easy place to quiet your mind.
I could never.
So I turned my podcast off. I turned my music off. I left my headphones on. I started quieting my mind, and all of a sudden, I started singing "Chitty Chitty Bang Bang" came in. And I'm like, "Chitty Chitty Bang Bang." I'm like, what the? Where did that even come from? I don't know if I've ever seen. Right. So
That's hilarious.
Is that the universe telling me something?
I don't know what.
I don't either, but
that's funny.
That was the opposite of quieting my mind for sure. I'm like, "Chitty Chitty Bang Bang." So
of all the songs.
Yeah, now I know what you guys are going to be thinking of tonight, I'm sure.
You know, I have spent some time meditating over the years, and it's not something I've done regularly. But there have been times where you can sit down, you kind of assume the position, and if you can get to a place where I always, in my mind, I always think of white paper. It's only happened once, but if you get to that point and you can clear your mind, like 40 minutes passed, and it seemed like it was about 5 minutes to me. And I think you get into a different zone where maybe you're more open to that stuff. I don't know, and I didn't try anything like that, but I have had an experience of that where you sit and if you can actually get your mind to be quiet, time doesn't really, you just don't notice it, and it'll fly by. And I think if you're in the right place, like everything kind of just goes away. Maybe it's
so you just focused. How are you sitting?
Lotus position, just legs folded, palms up, just sitting. Close my eyes, sit straight up, and you concentrate on your breathing, just like I was actually, at the time I was reading a book on Buddhism and about how to quiet your mind and concentrate just on your breathing and your diaphragm. And you breathe intently in and out, but you don't breathe with your stomach. You breathe with your diaphragm. And it was probably 40 minutes went by, and I honestly didn't realize that I'd been there very long at all. And I assumed that that's what it's like to be in the zone, you know, where you could just be there and nothing affects you and you don't hear anything. I've only ever done that once, and nothing cool happened, but I did lose a lot of time. So,
I wonder if something happened, but you just didn't know it.
Maybe.
That's pretty cool. But you just thought of a sheet of paper, a white paper?
That's what I did. White paper. Just concentrate on white. And it's funny because it's so much more difficult than you think it is. It's so difficult to clear your mind, because the minute you clear your mind, you're thinking about clearing your mind, and then something else comes in, or you'll get there, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about something like, man, I'm supposed to be clearing my mind, and I've got to shove that out. It's really a lot harder to do. It's a skill. It's way harder than you think it is.
Oh yeah, every time I try to do it, it's like all of the things that I need to do that I haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I gotta do that. I gotta write that down, and I'm like, I can't write it down because I'm supposed to be quieting my mind. Well, then I'm gonna forget it. So yeah, it's really hard.
It is
really hard.
Maybe we need to go through the steps of how to quiet your mind for the next podcast.
You could throw it in there.
It is like
podcast on meditation.
Yeah, it's a real skill, or the one after our live one, maybe. But it's a real skill to do that. It's so hard to you wouldn't think it'd be that hard to control your mind, but it is.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is.
All right, fellas, any final thoughts?
No. I think I'm really excited for the experiment. I can't wait to try it out.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
that's going to be awesome.
We'll see what we come up with. I'll probably get in touch with you tomorrow, Scott, and we'll get some stuff going.
Cool.
And then and I just want to be clear, Brian. I'm gonna take 5 separate envelopes.
5 separate envelopes.
One in each one. I'll number them and call them out as I do it and what's in them.
Well, no, you don't say what's in them.
Not to him, but I mean just to the universe, right?
You just be real positive to him, and you take the 5 different things, put them in the 5 envelopes, and number them, and then he'll pick an envelope and go from there.
Okay.
Are we supposed to be like talking on the phone while this happens, or
Well,
am I supposed to just be writing this stuff down here and then I share it with him later?
no, it'll be all live. So what you'll do is you'll take your sheet of paper and you'll write your name and stuff on there, and we'll be quiet, and then you'll start saying out loud what you're writing down. We can go through the steps again.
Well, no, I just thought that he was going to practice all week and then read what he had on the show, and then I can open
it's live on the show. You'll do it right there.
No, we definitely need to practice before we do it live on the show. I don't want a Geraldo.
We've got.
No, that can't happen.
Oh man, this could go viral. Who knows? We could be like have about 15 views.
15 views. That's certainly not a pandemic virus.
No, it's just a little teeny virus right now.
It'll be huge.
But yeah, our next podcast we're shooting for 2 weekends away from now, so we've got time to practice and stuff till then.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That way you're an expert by then. So
I'll tell you what, Scott.
Definitely.
While you're doing that, I'll concentrate on the layout of your house, and I'll let you know what your house looks like.
That's super creepy, man.
That is creepy. That's creepy.
It might be worth something. You never know.
Yeah, could be. Throw different pictures of like your bathroom and stuff in an envelope and see what he comes up with.
But if you watch the guys that have done this, some of the stuff that they have found it's almost creepy in and of itself. The way that they have found it, they're finding missing children. They've discovered military applications, secret military applications of foreign countries. They have found planes that went down and that they couldn't figure out where they went down. They have found all kinds of stuff, missing spouses that been murdered. They're looking for the bodies or whatever, and supposedly the accuracy of this, according to the guy I was watching, he said our accuracy is 100%.
I don't know if I believe.
Whoa.
That's what the guy George Norrie. Yeah, George Norrie was the one that interviewed him. You all know George Norrie from Coast to Coast Live,
right?
And he's like 100%. He's like, yeah, well, it's like if once you're trained, then yeah, it should be 100%, because anything less than that, it's not acceptable. It's like you can't go to a pilot and say, you can only land on the runway 97% of the time. The other 3%, it's okay if you miss the runway.
In some countries, that's acceptable, by the way.
Write those down because I'm not flying there.
Yeah.
But they have legit found things that people were looking for. How do you do that? You can't just make that stuff up.
Nope.
You can't.
I think it's a genuine skill. I don't know about 100%, but I think there's definitely some people that are very adept at finding those kind of things. I'm dying to try this now.
Yeah,
seriously,
it's super interesting.
Weren't you saying something about Bin Laden though too, Scott?
Yeah, well, this guy said that he found Bin Laden back in the first when the Afghanistan war, and that they found him like way early in the war,
and let him go.
And that the reason why, and he said the program had been discontinued with the U.S. government by then. The U.S. government used to have a program that employed these people back in the 70s and 80s. He said it had been discontinued by then, but he still had contacts at the government, so he shared the location of where Bin Laden was. And they said there were a couple of reasons why they didn't go after him at the time. He was in Pakistan, and they weren't droning in Pakistan at that point. And so the main reason, though, was that had they gone in and killed him, then it would have removed the reason for our war.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
I think there's probably a lot of truth to that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a kind of an indictment on the military-industrial complex, and saying that, hey, we knew where the guy was, but we couldn't kill him yet, and so the whole thing was just kind of a charade.
That's a big rabbit hole to go down. But I would say, in my personal opinion, a Middle East that's off balance, that wars with itself, that has all kinds of trouble in every country over there, is probably not bad for me, and my kids keep getting Happy Meals and college educations while they do their thing, then I'm okay with that.
Right. I wonder if, because supposedly, right, they dumped Bin Laden's body off a boat, right?
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
I wonder if you can remote view and see if you can find him anywhere now.
For a long time, I thought maybe he was still alive.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty. I think, and I've seen the footage of the guy laying next to the picture of the guy laying next to the corpse to show the height, and they were trying to, define whether or not it was him, and I'm pretty sure he's dead, and they probably did dump him off a boat. I mean,
right.
If he's alive, no one will ever see him. He's in a hole somewhere. So.
Yeah. Right.
So,
crazy
so,
stuff.
so many conspiracies about stuff
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh,
Who knows?
yeah.
Who knows?
Years of material for us,
And
right
frankly, who cares? As long as he's gone, I'm good.
there.
They
Right.
can do whatever they want with him if he's alive. Doesn't bother me a bit.
Amen to that. All right. Well, Matt, you're up.
Oh, I am up, aren't I? Thanks for listening this week, guys. Everybody that's tuned in. We have some new listeners from India. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for listening. Send us your email as to where you are listening so that we can give you a shout out. If you enjoy the podcast, please go to our website and click on the podcast magazine link. Look for the Hot 50. Click that and vote away. Thanks to everyone that has given us a 5-star rating this past week. It means a lot to us and the show. Please send us your comments, suggestions, complaints, or questions to show@ourdifferenttake.com. You can also call our voicemail hotline to submit questions or complain or do an impersonation, really anything that you want. Just call 970-343-4594. That's 970-343-4594. Don't forget to rate us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the podcast. We are now heard on Ghana, the largest streaming service in India. We're also on Deezer, the French streaming service. You can also hear us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, radio.com, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play, and everywhere you like to get your favorite podcasts. We now have a YouTube channel called Our Different Take. Please subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll be alerted when a new podcast is released. We're going to stream live on YouTube for our next podcast. It should be really fun. If there's a certain subject you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. Stay tuned for time and info about the live stream where we will take your calls live.
Brian? Yeah. All right. We appreciate everyone listening. Peace.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Peace out.